Chapter 12 is entitled Devotional Service. And here's where Krishna describes clearly for Arjuna, based on Arjuna's question, the process of devotional service and how somebody goes from developing a generic idea of spirituality to a very intense, pure, and loving identity as Krishna's servant. And it begins with Arjuna asking a question about which yogi is better, the yogi who approaches the impersonal spiritual effulgence coming from Krishna's body, or the person who approaches Krishna directly. And what Krishna says is that both will eventually come to me, but the person who is indirectly approaching me by trying to merge into the oneness of the light that emanates from my spiritual form, that person will have a very difficult time crossing over the many obstacles that the material energy puts in their way. Because as we discussed earlier, without having the direct help of Krishna, the direct mercy of Krishna, they're not going to be able to overcome with the strength of their intellect the influence of his material energy. Anger, pride, lust, greed, illusion, all of these things have a way of ensnaring us, even in very subtle ways. When we think that we've overcome them on the gross level, we may not be pursuing wealth in the world anymore and trying to get a top job in a top corporation, and yet there's still some pride, there's still some arrogance when it comes to being a very spiritually fit practitioner, somebody who's taking their yoga very seriously. So in so many ways, the material energy can wind up trapping us. And Krishna says, unless you approach me directly, it's going to be very hard to overcome those snares. Yet still, everyone who eventually does one way or another come out of the influence of the material energy does come to me. And so he explains further for Arjuna the process by which different people develop this mood of service. Krishna says, best thing is to think of me, but if you're not able to think of me directly, then practice thinking of me. Live your life in such a way that you're able to be constantly reminded of me. This is what Prabhupada calls sadhana bhakti. It basically means, as we discussed earlier, to act based on good intelligence, despite our own feelings that we may not actually want to pursue that relationship with Krishna at that particular moment. So we may commit to waking up early in the morning, but then when the early morning comes, we don't want to get out of bed. A good sadhana bhakta gets out of bed anyway, because they understand that that's the practice that will bring me to the feeling that both Krishna and I desire. A good sadhana bhakta understands, I may want to go out and party on a Friday night because most of my other friends are doing that, but that partying is going to be sweet only in the beginning and actually create a whole lot of problems for me later on. It's going to be a big distraction in my spiritual pursuits in the ultimate sense, and so I shouldn't bother with it at all. This is the practice of devotional service, and this is where most people who read the Bhagavad Gita can hope to come to in this lifetime. Then Krishna says, if you're not able to do this practice of devotional service, then at least try to work without attachment for the result. And that's something that we've already discussed also. Doing our duty without worrying about what's in it for us, but instead recognizing that Krishna has our best interest in mind, and if I simply work in a mood of detachment, then everything that's good for me is going to come automatically, because that's what Krishna wants. So in this way, Krishna walks through a few different steps that people can start from on their pursuit of having a pure, loving relationship with him. And then he finishes the chapter by describing the qualities and characteristics of people who have perfected their connection to him. He describes how their humility, their pridelessness, their tolerance, their compassion towards others, their magnanimity, their equanimity, all these qualities of the pure devotees attract Krishna to them and inspire Krishna to move in their life in very miraculous ways and allow them to touch the lives of others also. So although it's a very short chapter, chapter 12 is packed with information about the process of bhakti, devotional service, and also about the fruit or the result of actually achieving perfection on the path.